What if you could step into the world of real estate investing and potentially make thousands, even tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars
Oh, yeah.
without ever taking out a loan, dealing with contractors, or, even owning the property yourself?
Right. That sounds almost like a magic trick, doesn't it? And that's often where people hit a wall with all the confusing terms. You hear wholesale fee and assignment fee thrown around. Are they like the same thing? What does it actually mean to make money this way? And, what are the hidden bits, the complexities?
Absolutely. That confusion is exactly what we're trying to cut through today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take the stack of sources you've shared, articles, notes, real-world stuff, and boil it down to the essential insights.
Get right to the core of it.
Yeah. Our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack this fascinating world of real estate wholesaling. We're zeroing in on these specific fees, the strategies behind them, and we're drawing only from the material you've given us.
Think of us as your guides through all this info. We'll define the main ideas, explain exactly how these deals work, step by step.
Right.
We'll look at the costs, the risks compared to other ways of investing, and crucially, dig into the legal and ethical stuff that the sources really flag as, critical for anyone playing in this space.
Okay.
By the end, you should have a really clear picture of what this strategy is, how it works, and frankly, what it takes to pull it off successfully.
Okay, let's dive right in then. To understand the fees, we first have to get our heads around the basic concept. What exactly is real estate wholesaling? Just the big picture.
Right. So at its simplest, wholesaling is a short-term real estate play. It's about finding a property, usually one that's below market value, often because the seller, they need to sell it fast. Then you get that property under contract. And then quickly you sell or transfer that contract to another buyer, usually another investor.
And you make a profit doing that.
Exactly. That's the goal. Profit.
So the wholesaler isn't planning to fix it up and sell it
Right.
or keep it as a rental. They're more like a connector.
Precisely. The wholesaler is the middleman, the intermediary. They bridged the gap between, say, a motivated seller who needs speed and convenience more than the absolute top price, and a cash buyer. Often that's a flipper or maybe a landlord looking for discounted properties for their portfolio. The wholesaler's skill is really in spotting these opportunities and connecting the dots.
And the big appeal, well, according to the sources anyway, is that it's easier to get into compared to other kinds of real estate investing, right? Lower barrier to entry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unlike, buying traditionally or flipping or developing, wholesaling often requires very little upfront cash.
Right.
You're typically not getting a mortgage. You're not funding big renovations. The financial risk is just way lower because the whole point is to get in and out of the deal fast. You don't take on the full costs and headaches of ownership.
Makes sense.
So yeah, it makes it a really accessible starting point for a lot of people wanting to get into real estate.
Okay, so that sets the stage for wholesaling generally. Now, let's zoom in on how that connection, that facilitation actually works in practice. Because there are different ways to do it, right? And the sources seem to really focus heavily on the assignment method. What does that mean? To assign a contract in wholesaling.
Okay, yeah, this is the key concept. It ties directly to the assignment fee. So in the assignment method, the wholesaler signs a standard purchase agreement with the property owner, the seller.
Just like any buyer would.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the twist. The wholesaler doesn't actually intend to close on the purchase themselves. Instead, they find an end buyer. And then, using a separate legal document, it's called an assignment of real estate purchase and sale agreement, they transfer their rights and obligations unto that original contract to this new buyer.
So wait, they're basically selling their spot in the original deal to someone else.
That's a great way to put it. Exactly. And this is the absolute key difference with the assignment method. The wholesaler never actually takes title to the property.
They don't own it even for a second.
Nope. They hold the contractual right to buy it for a short time, and then they sell that right to the end buyer. The end buyer then just steps into the wholesaler's shoes, basically, and closes the deal directly with the original seller.
Okay. And this brings us right back to the fees. The material you gave us uses both assignment fee and wholesale fee. How do those terms fit together, especially with this assignment method?
Yeah, the sources are pretty clear on this. In the context of using this assignment strategy, the assignment fee is the specific chunk of money the wholesaler charges the end buyer for, assigning those contract rights over.
Right.
This fee is the wholesaler's profit for that deal. And what happens is the terms assignment fee and wholesale fee are often just used interchangeably out there by investors in the market. They mean the profit earned through this assignment method.
So if I hear someone saying they made a wholesale fee on a deal, chances are they're talking about an assignment fee they got by signing their contract.
That's generally how it works in practice, yeah. When people are talking about assignment deals, the wholesale fee, in this context, is what the end buyer pays the wholesaler for finding the deal, locking it down, and giving them the chance to buy the property at the price the wholesaler negotiated.
Gotcha. And it's really important to stress, like the sources do, this fee is paid by the end buyer directly to the wholesaler. It's totally separate from the price the end buyer pays the original seller for the actual house. It's the price for the contract.
Correct. The end buyer is basically wiring two amounts at closing, you could say. The purchase price goes to the original seller, and the assignment fee goes to the wholesaler.
Okay, that makes sense. Now that we understand what it is, what the fee represents, let's walk through the mechanics. How does a wholesaler actually do an assignment deal? Start to finish, what are the steps the sources lay out?
Right. The sources give a pretty detailed roadmap. It all starts, naturally, with finding the opportunity.
Step 1, research and locate. So this means really knowing your local market, right? And any specific laws about wholesaling there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then it's hunting for properties. Distressed ones, or maybe more importantly, finding motivated sellers. The sources mention things like driving for dollars.
Literally driving around looking for rundown houses, yeah.
Or using online stuff, networking, ads, checking public records for like foreclosures or...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finding those motivated sellers is, honestly, probably the most crucial skill here. These aren't folks just testing the waters. They have a need to sell fast.
Like what kind of situations?
Oh, divorce, maybe a job relocation, they inherited a house they don't want, financial trouble, code violations they can't afford to fix. They prioritize getting it done quickly and easily over getting every last penny.
It's the difference between needing to sell and just wanting to sell.
That's it. That's what the sources emphasize. Need versus want.
Okay, step 2, due diligence and offer. Once you've found a potential deal, the wholesaler has to analyze it fast. What's it worth now? What could it be worth if it hit up? What are similar houses selling for?
Right. This is where you hear about ARV, the after repair value. The wholesaler needs a good estimate of that because the end buyer, often a flipper, is basing their whole plan on it. So based on that ARV and the estimated repair costs, the wholesaler figures out their MAO, the maximum allowable offer. That's the absolute highest price they can offer the seller.
And still make it work.
Yeah, and still leave enough room for their own assignment fee and leave a decent profit margin or equity for the end buyer. If you offer more than the MAO, the deal just won't fly for the end buyer, so you won't be able to assign it.
Makes sense. Step 3, contact the seller. Approaching them. The sources say, be transparent here.
Super important. Be clear who you are. Usually identify yourself as a real estate investor. Explain you want to buy their property quickly and often, that you plan to find another buyer. Explaining the assignment process simply builds trust, avoids problems later.
Right. Managing expectations, especially if the offer is below market value. Step 4, secure the contract. Negotiate and sign the purchase agreement at that price, ideally at or below your MAO, and use a good contract legally reviewed for your area.
Definitely use a solid contract.
And step 5 is about some really crucial contract clauses. What absolutely has to be in that agreement with the seller for assignment to even be possible?
Okay, the number one thing is language that explicitly lets you assign your rights to someone else. Often, it's as simple as adding and/or assigns right after your name as the buyer.
John Doe and/or assigns.
Exactly.
Right.
Or you might have a specific clear assignment clause spelled out. Without that permission in a contract or getting it in writing from the seller later, trying to assign it is a breach. Big problems. Kills the deal. Legal trouble.
And the sources also mention an escape contingency or inspection period. Why is it so important?
Ah, yes. Vital risk management for the wholesaler. This clause gives you a set amount of time, say 7 or 10 days, maybe longer, to do your due diligence.
Well.
But crucially for assignments, it's your window to find that end buyer.
Okay.
If you can't find a buyer in time, or if something unexpected pops up during inspections, this contingency lets you legally back out of the contract, usually just losing your earnest money deposit if you put one down. It stops you from getting stuck having to buy a property you can't actually assign.
Got it. So contract secured, escape hatch in place. Step 6, finding the end buyer. Now you shift focus from the seller to the investor who wants the deal.
Exactly. Now you market the opportunity. But importantly, if you're not a licensed agent, You're technically marketing your contract rights, not the house itself. That's a key legal point in many places.
Good distinction.
You reach out to your network of cash buyers, investors with funds ready to go looking for flips or rentals. Building and maintaining that buyer list. That's constant work, a huge asset for any wholesaler. You need someone willing to pay more for the contract than the price you agreed on with the original seller.
Step 7. Assign the contract. You found your buyer, they're solid. Now you use that special assignment document.
Yep. You execute the assignment of real estate purchase and sale agreement. It's a formal legal doc that officially transfers your position as buyer to the new end buyer. And crucially, it specifies the assignment fee they've agreed to pay you.
Okay. Step 8. Closing. The actual transaction.
Right. The end buyer steps into your spot and closes the deal directly with the original seller. Everything happens according to the terms of the original purchase contract you negotiated way back at the start.
And finally, the best part for the wholesaler, step 9, get paid. The assignment fee comes through at closing.
Usually, yes. The end buyer brings all the money needed, the purchase price for the seller, plus your assignment fee. The closing agent, like a title company or an attorney, handles distributing the funds. So you get your fee when the deal successfully closes.
So really, the wholesaler's main job is steps 1 through 7, find the deal, contract it, find the buyer, assign it. The actual closing happens between the original seller and the new buyer.
Pretty much, yeah.
And the sources say this whole thing, finding the deal to getting paid, can happen super fast, like days or weeks, often 15 to 30 days.
That speed is definitely a big part of the appeal. It's a hallmark of the assignment strategy. You're not waiting months for renovations or traditional bank loans.
Let's talk more about that fee, $50,000 in that example you mentioned.
Sure.
That's a lot of money for facilitating a deal in, say, a month without owning the property. How is that fee calculated? Why does it vary so much?
Okay, the basic math is like the sources show. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
The assignment fee is just the difference between the price the wholesaler got the property under contract for with the seller.
Yeah.
And the price the end buyer agrees to pay the wholesaler for those contract rights.
So using that example again, seller price $80,000, end buyer pays $130,000 for the contract, fee is $50K, $130K minus $80K. But why would an end buyer pay $130,000 for a house you got for $80,000? That sounds off.
Yeah, it's a fair question. It comes back to leaving enough profit potential for that end buyer.
Yeah.
Let's say the ARV, the after repair value on that house is maybe $200,000.
Okay.
An investor buying it for $130,000 still sees a $70,000 margin before repair costs. Even after fixing it up, they expect to make a good profit. The sources call it leaving meat on the bone for the investor.
Okay.
The buyer pays the assignment fee because getting that deal at $130K through the wholesaler is still a great opportunity for them, maybe better than they could find hunting on their own.
So the fee isn't just pulled out of thin air. It has to make sense based on the deal's numbers for the next guy.
Exactly. It's driven by the potential value.
What factors push that fee higher or lower?
Several things. First, that spread we just talked about. The bigger the gap between your low contract price with the seller and the max price an end buyer will pay based on ARV and repairs, the bigger your potential fee. Getting a deep discount from the seller is key.
Market conditions must play a role too. Hot market versus cold market.
Oh, huge role. In a hot market, lots of buyers, not much inventory. Cash buyers get competitive. They might pay a higher assignment fee just to lock down a good property.
Right.
Slower market. You might need to trim your fee to keep the deal attractive. You got to know your local pulse and not price yourself out.
And the deal itself, how profitable is it for the end buyer?
Yeah, if it's a home run deal, like super high ARV compared to the price, tons of potential profit, the end buyer might stomach a bigger assignment fee because the overall deal is just so sweet for them.
Can the wholesaler's own effort justify a higher fee? Like if it was a really hard deal to find?
The sources suggest yes, to some extent. If you spend a ton of time, effort, marketing cash, finding a tough off-market deal, or your negotiation skills got an amazing price, that value you added can help support asking for a higher fee. Your hustle and network are part of what they're paying for.
What about typical ranges? Sources mention norms differ.
They do. Sources suggest maybe $5,000 can be considered standard for maybe smaller deals or newer wholesalers. But they also say fees of $10K, $20K, even way more like that $50 example or the crazy $100K plus one we'll get to are definitely possible. especially on pricier properties or deals with massive discounts. You need to know local norms, but price based on the deal's numbers and the value to the buyer.
And how does the payment actually happen at the closing? You said anything else like deposits?
Yeah, main payment is from the end buyer to the wholesaler at closing, handled by the title company or whoever is closing it. But the sources also talk about wholesalers often getting an earnest money deposit, or EMD, from the end buyer when they sign the assignment agreement.
What's that EMD for? From the end buyer to the wholesaler?
It's usually non-refundable. And it says two things. First, it shows the end buyer is serious, they have skin in the game, helps weed out flaky buyers.
Okay.
Second, it can cover or reimburse any EMD the wholesaler might have put down with the original seller to secure the contract in the first place. It's basically the buyer paying for the right to hold on to that contract.
Got it. So recapping the fee stuff, it's not a commission like an agent gets, seller doesn't pay it. It's a fixed amount based on the price difference, paid by the end buyer for the right to take over the contract.
You nailed it. It's payment for creating that opportunity, for finding and controlling that discounted deal.
Okay, let's shift to costs. Costs involved in an assignment deal versus other ways a wholesaler might do things. This seems to be where assignment really shines for the wholesaler.
Absolutely. The biggest cost advantage for the wholesaler using assignment, they generally have very low closing costs, minimal.
Because they don't actually buy the property, they don't take title.
Bingo. Since they aren't formally buying it on paper, they dodge a lot of the standard transaction fees. Things the sources list like title insurance, escrow fees, recording fees, maybe attorney fees. Those usually fall on the end buyer in an assignment. They're the ones actually completing the purchase from the seller.
So the wholesaler's costs are more like maybe their initial earnest money, if any, and maybe paying a lawyer to look over their contracts.
Yeah, pretty much. Their direct costs for the transaction itself are super low. And like we said, the assignment fee they earn is totally separate from those closing costs. It's not part of the closing costs. It's their profit from the deal.
So comparing it again. Earnest money is a deposit, usually refundable, shows you intend to buy. Assignment fee is non-refundable, pays for the contract rights.
Right.
Closing costs are fees for services to actually transfer the property. Assignment fee is the wholesaler's profit for making the deal happen. And agent commission is a percentage paid by the seller. Assignment fee is a fixed amount paid by the buyer for the contract.
Perfect summary. Highlights just how unique that assignment fee is.
Now, what about those other wholesale methods where they do take ownership? Even briefly, sources talk about those, stress the cost difference.
Yeah, the main alternative where the wholesaler takes title is the double close, sometimes called the simultaneous close. Here, the wholesaler actually buys the property from the original seller that's transaction A. Then, almost immediately, maybe minutes or hours later, they sell it to the end buyer that's transaction B. Two separate closings.
2 closings. Sounds expensive.
It is. Significantly. Because the wholesaler is technically buying and selling, they pay closing costs twice. Once for buying from the seller, and again for selling to the end buyer.
Ouch. What kind of costs are we talking about piling up for the wholesaler there?
Oh, the list gets long. Sources mention potential loan fees if they use short-term transactional funding for that first purchase. Title insurance paid twice. Escrow or closing agent fees twice. Recording fees twice. Prorated property taxes, transfer taxes. Attorney fees potentially twice. Maybe inspection fees.
Wow, okay. That adds up incredibly fast. Seems like your net profit on a double close could get eaten up way more than with an assignment.
Definitely. The cost burden is much, much higher. Now, sometimes a double close is needed. Maybe the seller won't agree to an assignment, or you want to keep a really large fee more private off the main settlement statement. But generally, yeah, it's way more expensive for the wholesaler than assigning.
Another method mentioned is wholetailing. How's that compare cost-wise?
Wholetailing is like a double close because the wholesaler does take title, buys it, then sells it. The difference is with wholetailing, the wholesaler usually does some light cleanup or minor cosmetic repairs first.
Okay, like new paint, landscaping.
Maybe, yeah. Just enough to make it look a bit better than purely as is.
Yeah.
They try to market it to maybe a slightly wider pool of buyers, maybe even some retail folks, not just hardcore investors.
So costs are high there too, closing costs twice.
Yes. Closing costs twice, buying and selling. Plus you have the costs of whatever repairs or cleanup you did. And you have holding costs while you own it, even if it's just for a couple of weeks. Utilities, insurance, maybe HOA dues.
That sounds like the most expensive route for the wholesaler.
It generally is, in terms of cash needed up front. The idea is those small fixes let you sell it for a higher price, making the extra cost worthwhile. but the capital needed and the risk are definitely higher than a simple assignment.
Lastly, sources mention novation deals. How do those fit in, cost-wise?
Novation is actually closer to assignment because the wholesaler doesn't take title. What happens is the wholesaler, the original seller, and the end buyer all agree to basically tear up the original contract and create a brand new contract directly between the seller and the end buyer.
Interesting. So the wholesaler facilitates a new agreement.
Exactly. The wholesaler's profit, often called a novation fee, gets built into the purchase price in that new contract.
So low cost for the wholesaler, again, like assignment.
Pretty much, yeah. Sources indicate wholesaler costs are mainly admin and legal, similar to assignment. The main closing costs fall on the seller and end buyer because it's their names on the final contract. Novation can be a workaround sometimes if assignment isn't allowed or preferred.
This cost breakdown really highlights why assignment is so popular, especially for beginners. Lowest cost, lowest capital needed for the wholesaler.
Absolutely. It's the most capital-efficient way to wholesale, minimizes your financial exposure.
Okay, we've hit definitions, the process, the fees, the costs compared to other methods. But let's zoom out again. What are the overall trade-offs, the big pros and cons of wholesaling, especially assignment, based on these sources?
Let's start with the good stuff, the pros. The biggest one we keep coming back to. Lower financial barrier and risk.
Yeah, that's huge. You don't need amazing credit, tons of cash, or bank loans usually. You can potentially start with very little money, maybe just enough for an earnest deposit. Your risk is mostly your time and marketing spend, not, hundreds of thousands tied up in a property or renovation. Mistakes teach you, they don't bankrupt you.
And then there's the speed, quick profits. Assignment deals can close fast, weeks, sometimes days. So you see your money much faster than a flip that takes months, or rentals that pay out slowly over years. That fast turnaround is really appealing.
The overall low barrier to entry, too. You need skills, sure, but maybe not formal licenses or degrees in many places just to get started finding deals and building contacts. Though checking local laws on licensing is key.
Definitely check local laws.
Yeah.
And the process itself, compared to actually buying and owning, is often simpler for the wholesaler, fewer steps for them.
And lastly, it's seen as a great way to learn the ropes, right? A gateway strategy.
Absolutely. You learn the fundamentals, finding deals, valuing property, negotiating, networking, all with less risk. And the money you make can then fund bigger things, like flipping or buying rentals down the line.
Okay, but it's not all easy money. There are definitely downsides, challenges.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sources point out several. One is potentially lower profits per deal.
Right, that $50 K assignment fee sounds great, but a successful flip might net, $72,000 on average, according to one source.
Correct. You might make less on one single assignment compared to a great flip or maybe even a double close, but you're doing it way faster, with way less risk and cash involved. It's often about volume and speed over hitting a home run on every single deal.
A huge challenge mentioned is inconsistent income.
This is critical. Wholesaling isn't a steady 9-to-5 paycheck. Your income is 100% dependent on finding and closing deals. You will have dry spells. You need to be ready for that, mentally and financially. It takes constant, consistent effort.
Which leads right into the difficulty of constantly finding both the deals and the buyers.
Yes. Finding motivated sellers who will sell at a discount. A&D keeping an updated, reliable list of serious cash buyers. That's the grind. That's the sweat equity. It takes serious time, effort, marketing, networking. Your pipeline needs constant feeding on both ends.
There's also just skepticism, right? Buyers or sellers might not understand assignment, might be wary of the process or your role.
That can definitely be a hurdle. Educating people and building trust is part of the job. And buyer reliability is another risk. Even with an assignment signed, your end buyer could flake. Having some non-refundable earnest money helps, but vetting buyers carefully is crucial.
And unlike owning it, you don't control the final closing details between the original seller and the end buyer once you've assigned it.
True. You're kind of out of that loop. And finally, sources mention transparency issues, especially around the fee. If it seems disproportionately large or if the wholesaler isn't upfront, it can cause friction or even kill the deal at closing.
And that takes us right into what the sources really hammer home, navigating the legal and ethical minefield of wholesaling.
Yeah, this isn't a space to just jump into blindly. Sources warn it can feel like a legal gray area sometimes. You absolutely need to pay close attention to the specific laws where you operate.
What are the absolute must-know legal points from the materials?
Okay, number one, over and over, disclosure. And there can be real penalties for getting this wrong. If you are not a licensed real estate agent, Sources stress you must disclose you're selling your contract rights, not the actual property.
Big difference legally.
Huge. You also need to disclose you're an investor looking to profit. Be upfront about your role.
And specifically tell the end buyer how much the assignment fee is.
Yes. Disclosing that fee to the end buyer is emphasized as crucial. Not doing these disclosures clearly. That can mean legal trouble, fines from regulators, lawsuits, deals falling apart. Transparency isn't just nice. It's often legally required.
Contractual consent is another big one. Can't skip that.
It's non-negotiable. Your original purchase contract with the seller must allow assignment, either that and/or a sans language or a specific clause. If it forbids assignment or says nothing, you need the seller's explicit written permission later. Assigning without permission. Breach of contract. Bad news.
And licensing varies wildly by state.
Hugely. Sources warn. Doing this repeatedly, assigning contracts for fees is a business. Some places might say you're acting like a broker and need a license. You have to know the rules in your specific state and city. Don't guess.
This section also gets into a really sensitive topic, dealing with vulnerable sellers.
Yes, a major flag in the sources. Huge risks, legally and ethically, especially with the elderly or people in poor health. If you're dealing with someone like that, you have to be absolutely sure they fully understand the deal, have the mental capacity, aren't being pressured. There are real risks of claims like elder abuse.
And there was that real-world example from a forum discussion.
Yeah, a really powerful illustration. A wholesaler described contracting a property from an elderly guy, poor health, but apparently sharp, mentioned an economics background, talked to a lawyer.
Okay.
The seller named his price way below market. It created a potential assignment fee for the wholesaler of over $100,000.
Wow. $100 K plus fee.
Yeah, and that huge fee, combined with the seller's situation, it sparked a big ethical debate for the wholesaler and the community.
You could see why.
Totally. The wholesaler was wrestling with it. Is this fair? Do I deserve this? What if he needs the money later? The online responses were all over the map. Some said, hey, business is business. He named his price. Others suggested gifting some back, making sure disclosures were ironclad, maybe doing a double close to make the huge fee less obvious on the settlement statement.
That's interesting, using a double close for fee transparency reasons.
Right, or lack thereof. Some also noted that if the end buyer needed financing, the lender might balk at such a huge percentage assignment fee anyway.
It really highlights that even if the seller seems informed and names the price, the wholesaler still has a responsibility to tread carefully, right? Especially with vulnerable people. Document everything. Maybe even suggest the seller get their own independent advice.
Exactly. That anecdote is a potent reminder. Beyond just following the letter of the law, there's a big ethical piece here. The fee should feel reasonable for the value added. It should solve the seller's problem, create opportunity for the buyer, and fairly compensate the wholesaler's work and risk. Predatory stuff. Unethical, unsustainable, asking for trouble.
So, thinking about everything, the potential for quick cash with low capital, but the constant hustle, the risks, the crucial legal and ethical stuff, how does someone know if this path is right for them? What skills or traits do the sources say successful wholesalers need?
Okay, sources point to a few key things. People skills, huge. You're always negotiating with sellers, talking to buyers, building relationships, being likable, trustworthy, a good communicator, essential.
Got to be organized too, right? Juggling deals, deadlines.
Absolutely. Highly organized, efficient, managing multiple leads, tracking tasks, coordinating closings. Then there's mindset. Goal-oriented, persistent. Because the income isn't steady, you need that drive to keep pushing, finding leads, following up, even when deals inevitably fall through. You can't get discouraged easily.
Deep local market knowledge seems critical too.
Non-negotiable. You have to know values, repair costs, what's happening in different neighborhoods to spot good deals and analyze them accurately. Networking skills are key. Constantly finding motivated sellers and nurturing that list of reliable cash buyers who can close fast. That buyer's list is gold.
And being comfortable with numbers, analysis.
Yep. You got to be able to run the numbers, calculate ARV, figure out your MAO, estimate repairs. The deal has to work financially for everyone involved. Can't just guess.
Maybe being a bit tech savvy helps. CRMs, apps.
Couldn't hurt. Anything to stay organized and efficient. But ultimately, it's about committing to always learning. Markets shift. Laws might change. Every deal teaches you something.
It sounds like the money barrier might be low, but the effort barrier is definitely high. It's doable, but it takes serious dedication and hustle.
That's a perfect way to put it. Wholesaling, especially assignment, is performance-based. Your success is directly tied to the work you consistently put in and the skills you develop.
Well, we have certainly covered a ton of ground today, really dug into real estate wholesaling, focusing on untangling wholesale fee versus assignment fee, all based on the sources you brought.
Yeah, and we saw they're often used for the same thing, right? That profit a wholesaler makes using the assignment strategy, selling the contract rights without ever taking title.
And we highlighted why that assignment method is so attractive, much lower costs, much less financial risk for the wholesaler compared to things like double closing or wholetailing, where they actually own the property for a bit and rack up expenses.
We walk through the steps, showing how the wholesaler really acts as that key connector, finding the motivated seller, finding the cash buyer, bringing them together, creating value that way.
And we really emphasized how crucial it is to navigate the legal and ethical side carefully. Know your disclosure rules, get the contract right, understand licensing, and always act transparently and ethically, especially with potentially vulnerable sellers.
Absolutely critical. It's a strategy with real potential for quick profits, a low-risk way into real estate investing. But it demands hard work, ongoing learning, and honestly, a strong ethical compass to build a sustainable business.
So wrapping up, thinking about all this, the process, the potential profit, the ethical questions that $100 K fee example really brought up, here's a final thought for you, the listener. How does seeing the wholesaler, not just as someone taking a fee, but as someone actively solving a problem for a seller and creating an opportunity for an investor, how does that frame change how you think about the fairness of the fee they earn for filling that specific role?
Definitely something to mull over as you explore the different ways people make money in real estate. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.